Guys, defense in Philippine Bible Ministry. This will be fun. I want to talk about dinosaurs. Peppa Pig's brother says dinosaurs. So I had a conversation with some atheists a couple like 2 weeks ago, last week, and it wasn't very fruitful because they don't really want to talk. They just want to say bad things and run away. Trolls they are, and they just like to slap and run. Kind of cowardly, if you ask me. The trolls, to me, trolls are cowardly, and there's a lot of things that I don't appreciate about the world that we live in. But the one guy said, "Well, if God's so good, God created everything, God's so smart. Why did He make dinosaurs if they're just going to die off? Wasn't that kind of cruel? And why would He? What it's a failure, right?" And my first snap response, without even thinking about it, just a snap response was, "Well, that's why we have fuel for our cars. So maybe it was just a plan. No failure there." And then he quit back and said, "Well, why do it have to be fossil fuels that pollute the world?" I said, "I don't know. Why don't you ask him?" "Oh, wait, you can't." Why? Why? Because he's not a believer anyway. You can ask God anything. So I want to talk about dinosaurs for a minute because a couple of things came up. I was actually dreaming about last night. Some of my videos come from things that get in my mind and my heart, and then a couple of days later they start turning. I go, I'm gonna do a video on this, and we'll see how it goes. First of all, I want to talk about science. I want to talk about science just for a second. I know I did a video on the Bible and science. The whole three people that watched it, this might be a repeat. But dinosaurs. So people say, well, dinosaurs prove that the Bible's not true. The world is millions of years old because dinosaurs lived millions of years before people, and blah 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 blah. I believe in it. I believe in young Earth. I do, and so I know I'm crazy and stupid, but I'm not ignorant because there's a lot of evidence to back that up. But I don't want to. So let's just say this one thing here. I'm just going to say one thing. I don't want to get into a deep dive. I could link below a couple of good creation scientist sites that you and just have an open mind and listen to what these people say. And if you have an open mind, you should have an open mind because just a second. You should have an open mind because that's what scientific inquiry is having an open mind and then seeing what the evidence shows. People are mad because now we have all these surveillance videos and it's showing things in the world and they don't like what they're seeing because it doesn't fit their worldview, so they're just ignoring it, right? So don't be that person. My mind's made up. Don't convince me with the facts. That's a funny thing. Um, so here's one thing I'll say about dinosaurs scientifically, just for a second. Well, it could have been billions of years, and you say it's only a few thousand. So they've actually found evidence of flesh that they could still identify as flesh on the bones of dinosaurs, which that material is only going to be recognizable, is only going to be there for a few thousand years. It's not going to be there for a million years. It's impossible. So that, in essence, that proves that they were only a few thousand years, not millions of years ago. They also found footsteps alongside of dinosaurs, which I've heard somebody try to. They took about 100 and some pages for this whole convoluted argument, and at the end of the day, they didn't really say anything. And they tried to prove, see, that proves it. You know, it's kind of like I don't remember who it was. One of the Dawkins or Hawkins or one of those famous um, atheist scientists who says, "Well, it looks like there was a designer, but we don't believe it." The evidence seems to show that. Yeah, so a little bit of honesty, but then no, but we refuse. So if you have flesh that's still identifiable as flesh on the bones of anything, it's only a few thousand years old. Carbon dating is only good for a few thousand years, by the way. It's not good for millions of years. And it's about 50% inaccurate. So, anyway, old age Earth is not a provable fact. I'm sorry to tell you. Uniformity, if anybody who's into science now, and I don't want to lose people that aren't, but just for a second, uniformity is not a proven fact. Matter of fact, it's pretty much a it's an opposite of a proven fact, right? So there's so many things I could talk. I don't want to talk about that. I just want to talk about dinosaurs for a minute. So dinosaurs, if they existed with man, which seems to me that we have evidence that they did, then and this makes sense too. Why does this make sense? Because every culture has dinosaurs or dragons. Every culture. Why? Worldwide. These people didn't know each other. Why do they all have the same idea? The zodiac of China. Every creature in there is a real creature except for the dinosaur, except for the dragon. Unless people actually had dragons, right? So that's like just a little side note. And then the other one I remember from Kithoven, there's a place in Africa, I can't remember where it is, the Congo or something. It's like a thick jungle. No one goes in there because it's so thick and dangerous. And I don't know if there still is today, but there still was 30 years ago primitive people in there that no one even sees. They know about us. They come out every now and then. And they claim that they hunt some kind of dinosaur. And then what about the extinction? And what about the flood? So if there's dinosaurs, how did they survive the flood? Look how big they are. There's no way they could get on the ark. Here's the thing. When a brontosaurus is born, it's about this big. so, so I said this to somebody too, one of the atheist guys. I said, what if they were all young? I wasn't even talking about dinosaurs because he said he had a fact. This is a fact, scientific fact. He says, the ark's not big enough for all the animals. Scientific fact. I said, that's not a fact. Show me the evidence. Prove it. I can say something. I can say global warming caused by mankind. Scientific fact. Look at all the scientists. Well, the scientists are all meteorologists. They're not actual scientists as far as the physics and other things. Number one. Number two, almost all those scientists are funded by the UN. So it's not a fact. It's a theory based on a model, which is probably faulty. Because why do I say that? So I'm sorry. I'm trying not to go down side roads, but I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I apologize. Because they have found tropical plants growing in European places that are now non-tropical, that go back thousands of years ago, where the whole world was tropical at one time. So you could have had dinosaurs on the ark if they were all young. Problem solved. It's not that hard. So why did they die? Well, it wasn't a meteor. They don't. There's no evidence of that. There's just a. Well, how are they all die? Well, it's a meteor. It's kind of like atomic glue. You know what atomic glue is? Atomic glue is no one knows what holds the atom together. Physicists, those are real scientists, as opposed to meteorologists, which are kind of scientists. So physicists say there's nothing that holds the atom together. Technically, according to the scientific theory we have today, it should not be held together. We don't know what holds it together. So they came up with this thing. They came up with an idea based on their faith, based on no reality, and they call it atomic glue. Atomic glue holds the universe together, right? So sometimes they just so you know, sometimes this scientists just make stuff up, right? Okay. So the dinosaurs, let's say they were small, and they're on the ark. So why did they all die off? Well, here's my theory. This could be true. Actually, the fact that they found tropical remains of tropical plants that are thousands of years old in places like, I forget where it was, Norway or some cold land, and they found them there, proving that at one time the Earth was warmer. So what if the whole Earth was a lush tropical land before the flood? And what if the atmosphere changed after the flood? Right? And what if this caused there's no more food for the dinosaurs, the plant-eating dinosaurs, so they die off, and then the meat-eating dinosaurs have no more food because the plant-eating dinosaurs die off, and they're not smart enough to eat the humans because the humans are a lot smarter than they are. So the dinosaurs, the large dinosaurs. Now we still have dinosaurs. Sharks are dinosaurs. Most lizards and snakes and all those guys are technically dinosaurs, right? So we still have dinosaurs. They're just little. They're not dinosaurs. They're not giant lizards. I think that's what it means. Giant lizard or something like thunder lizard. I don't know, something like that. So that's a very possible theory, right? So none of that is like, well, dinosaurs prove that. No, it doesn't prove anything. It just proves that you need to think a little bit and look into things and find out what's going on, right? One more thing about dinosaurs, just a second. I'm trying to get there. So I want to address my man that said, "Well, wasn't that just a stupid? It proves that God is stupid because why would he make dinosaurs if they just died off?" I don't know. I don't know why he would do it. Why do animals die off? Well, animals die off. There's a lot of excuse me. I'm sorry about the dogs. There's a lot of animals that are extinct. I don't know why. Okay, here's a secret for you, animal lovers. And I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. I don't want to break your heart. I love my dogs. I love my cats. I love all the pets in my life. I love animals. I love birds. I love so many animals. I do. I love them. But they're creatures. They're not human beings. God didn't create the world for them. He created it for us, and that's the way it is. And we're supposed to be the husband, one to protect them and take care of them and even eat some of them, but not in a horrible in a kind way. How do you eat something kindly? Well, you put it out of its life without much pain, and then you eat it. You don't torture it. You don't torture animals and hurt them. And, you know, so I can't really answer that. Like, does that prove God's a failure? No, it proves that we're the center of His creation, not animals. That's all it proves. And that's all I got to say about that. So God bless you guys. Ta ta for now.